Welcome to O's Corner with your host, ONYI.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to episode 13 of O's Corner. I'm your host, ONYI, and as always, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be in this space, to cultivate this space, to hold space. And thank you for sharing your presence. Thank you for listening in. This is a co-creation, a co-reflection, no matter what platform, what space, physical, virtual, that we're in, we are all sharing in each other's energy, and I am grateful for yours. So thank you so much. This is the fourth Friday of the month, and as such, it is a moment of peace, of stillness, of community healing using some modality to support the collective. And the modality of choice for me lately for this podcast has been sound healing and a bit of meditation. So I will definitely actually continue with that. And before we do so, let us do what we do here on O's Corner and take a moment to be in gratitude, appreciation, acknowledgement, acknowledging all of the beings, all of the things that support us, that coexist with us, that are reflections for us and reflections of us. First and foremost, I greet your higher selves. I greet my higher self. I am in gratitude for the fact that our higher selves chose to be here, chose to incarnate on this earth to experience everything we're experiencing, and to learn from it and grow from it, and to utilize all of the lessons that we are learning in order to be more of who we are, to chip away at everything that is not us. So I thank our higher selves. I greet, I welcome, I thank our ancestors, our collective ancestors, our individual ancestors, the ancestors of the lands that we occupy, the ancestors going back to the beginning of time. Thank you to everyone and everything that came before us for paving a way, for existing, for being whatever reflections they were, in order to help us to see what we prefer and what we don't prefer, so that we are able to make whatever decisions are in alignment with us. Thank you, ancestors. I honor and I thank the directions. I honor and I thank the elements and elementals. I honor and I thank the beings in the plant, mineral, and animal kingdoms. I thank everything that exists in the universe and the multiverse. Just everything. We are all a bit of everything. Everything is a reflection of us. We are a reflection of everything. And I am grateful for the co-reflection. And may we receive in this moment, in these moments, whatever there is for us to receive in order to be more of who we are, in order to heal. I thank you. Ashe. So the focus of today's healing, and I don't plan on saying a lot actually, outside of the description of what was coming through. Once I begin the sound work, I'm actually going to refrain from saying anything because that's what's coming through right now. And the focus really is on grief and the processing of grief, the allowance of grief, the allowance of proper grieving, whatever that looks like for the collective, for each individual person. I was doing a series on Instagram not too long ago where I was speaking about different tools and practices and tips for self-care and self-love. And one of the messages on one of the days was to allow ourselves to grieve. And how that was inspired was actually initially through a meeting with my Babalawo, which is a priest in the tradition of Ifa that comes from the Yoruba people of West Africa, and that is the system that I practice. And I was visiting him a couple months ago to provide some assistance, and he had actually made some medicine from our tradition, and one of the items that he had made, which he gave me some, was to assist with grief. And it's interesting because he gave this to me, and it's not like I said, hey, Baba, I need, some medicine for grief, but it just intuitively came to him to give me some of this medicine. And I was initially puzzled, like, oh, I didn't really consider that I needed it. But I took it, and I figured that if I did, it would come to me at some point and I would just understand why I was needing it. But it just struck me as somewhat odd because I didn't consider that I was grieving or that I needed to work on or work through grief. And a few days after that, I was having a conversation with a girlfriend of mine and was just talking about my relationship with one of my family members and just how it was in the past and certain things that I had been changing recently after so many years, and just really not knowing how to process a lot of the shifts and changes that were occurring for the better. But because I had known something different all of my life, during my relationship with this person, I just didn't know how to respond to the changes, even though they were positive. And something that she brought to my attention was the fact that, perhaps I needed to give myself extra space and time to grieve. The idea that whatever would be considered, quote, normal for most people, to maybe even increase that for myself in light of my specific circumstances. And as I was sharing with her what was just coming up regarding this person and reflecting, I just became very emotional. And I remembered my Baba and the medicine that he gave me, and it all just clicked. And I realized, wow, I was grieving. And grieving for the loss of whatever my mind imagined could have been or would have been my relationship with this person had we not had the experiences that we had during the times that we had them. Grief for the amount of energy that I devoted to this relationship, to this person, through just my beliefs and ideas about the circumstances that we were in. How much of myself I gave to worrying about this person, being concerned about their well-being, and so many other things. And this idea of, oh my goodness, how has my life been shaped by this relationship in the ways that it was? Just this idea of loss. And loss of, the identity that I created in light of this relationship or my response to it. And everything that I cultivated in light of it. And so many other things. And it really sat with me in a different way to consider the grieving process. And, in looking at just this year, last year, and in light of the quarantine, the pandemic, social distancing, isolation, the shifting of structures, the crumbling of structures, the recognition of so many things that many people did not recognize or did not want to see. And so many other things, the loss of so many things, of so many people, of so many ideas, so many beliefs, so many things across the board. And have we really given ourselves the opportunity to grieve? And not just for last year, prior to last year, just, all the different experiences that any one of us have had individually, any of us have had collectively, our ancestors. In what ways are we carrying grief? In what ways have we not allowed ourselves to grieve properly? There are societies and cultures and traditions that have specific processes for grieving, specific rituals, specific things that are just customary in these traditions, in these tribes, in these cultures that are very deeply rooted, very well established. And, I think about just American culture and what we have established or not established when it comes to grief. And even just looking at, the conventional corporate America life where, you get a few days of bereavement time off, no matter, who has perhaps passed in your family or anyone that you are connected to, family or not. And this idea of just carving out a few days for time off, as if everyone is supposed to fit into a specific box of, you can process your grief in that amount of time. And you know what? If that time is not sufficient, then it is what it is, or take additional time and you're not going to get compensated for that time. Just looking at the effects of capitalism on even the process of grieving, and it's only bereavement for a loss in the sense of death, but, people grieve for so many different reasons, but imagine someone requesting time off for bereavement for something that has nothing to do with a death in the ways that we know it. That time for grief, that honoring of the grieving process. In what ways have we not done that in our society? In what ways do all of us, any of us, need to grieve? What does that look like for each individual? What does it look like? Are you allowing yourself to grieve? Have you given yourself space and time to grieve? The gentleness, the compassion to grieve. Have you extended that to others? Have you supported others in their grief? And not necessarily by attempting to soothe or remove their grief, but just holding space. Demonstrating to them that it's okay to grieve. That you're there to hold them, hold space, not say a word if need be, or just show up in other ways to support them. Do you need others to support you in your grief? How does that look for you? Who is there for you for that? There's just so much around grief. So much. And I mean, we're not even seeing the large extent of it, So many people are still in a state of, I think, shock or numbness or disbelief, or just so many other things that they haven't even touched on the amount of grief that there is for them to process. And so, my prayer, my hope is to be able to hold space for people as they grieve, is to be a reflection to whomever needs it of the permission that we have to grieve, and to just support in whatever ways that I can, while also holding space for my own grief. Moving through that in the ways that I can, gently, knowing that I have support from people around me. I have support from my ancestors, my guides, all of the beings that watch over me, that I am working with. I have support. We all have support. None of us is alone, even if there are no physical human beings around us. We have access to everything on earth. We have our ancestors. We can always call upon them to support us and to help us as we grieve, so that we give ourselves again that proper space, that proper time, and that we don't collapse into it from a place of despair, but we move through it in the ways that are appropriate for us, that are necessary for us, so that we give it its due energy, we give it its due attention. And once that has been done, then we can release it, send it on its way with gratitude, knowing that we've done for grief what grief needed, and there's no more for us to do when it comes to grief. So, if that's you right now in this moment, and if you need to come back to this at another moment, then by all means, do whatever feels in alignment for you, with you. And once you're ready, I just encourage you to get into a position that is comfortable for you. If you're able to be seated upright with your feet planted firmly on the ground, just really connecting with that root energy, that grounding energy, reminding ourselves of grounding. But feet connected to the ground, hands on your thighs, palms facing up. If that position is comfortable for you, spine upright. And if another position is more in alignment with you, feels better, if you need to be standing and walking around, moving in some sort of way, by all means do what will allow the energy to flow through you as unencumbered as possible. Get into that position and just really drop in and ground. Drop in and ground. And really consider grief and whether or not you are allowing yourself to grieve in the ways that you need to, allowing that grief to move through as it needs to so that it can then be released. Just really consider if that is going on for you right now. And I've heard that, in terms of Chinese medicine, grief is stored within the lungs. That's something that I've actually heard recently, actually today, during a call that I was on. And I've heard this in the past in terms of grief. One idea being that it is stored in the lungs. So if that for you resonates right now in terms of any challenges you've had with your lungs or breathing, perhaps place your hands on your upper chest or your rib cage area, any part of your body associated with where your lungs are encompassed during this sound experience. If for you the grief or sadness hits you in a different area, if you feel the need to maybe hold your hands on your heart, maybe hold your hands on your head, or just anywhere else, ask your body. Get into the process of really asking your body where attention needs to be focused on in order to release any beliefs, any ideas, anything that doesn't serve you. And in this moment, really ask your body, okay, body, where are you holding grief? Okay, body, show me in what ways I need to move myself or whatever else I need to do in order to assist you in breaking through, working through, moving through grief, and see what comes up. Just pay attention. And in this moment, just ground in your breathing. Ground in your breathing, inhaling and exhaling with ease, with peace, grounded, feet connected to the ground, really feeling into the ground, becoming one with the ground, with the earth, grounding in this moment. And from this place of groundedness, really giving yourself the ability to see what needs to be seen when it comes to grief. Processing, moving through the grief, allowing yourself to grieve as necessary. Continue breathing, inhaling and exhaling, releasing what doesn't serve you in this moment, taking in what nourishes you, allowing that air, that breath to circulate every part of your being, and really allowing yourself to be in a space where you are holding space for yourself and you are being held by so many beings, so many things, in order to really grieve in whatever ways you need to. Slowly bring your awareness back to your body. Continue breathing, inhaling, exhaling with ease, with peace, grounded, centered, with a bit more awareness for yourself, within yourself, when it comes to grief, what your relationship is with it, if you've given yourself the opportunity to move through it, if you are moving through it, and you are now just recognizing that, wherever this lands for you, give yourself grace, be gentle with yourself, seek support, whether it be with trusted friends, with teachers, with guides, mentors, professionals that deal specifically with grief. Allow yourself to be supported. You have support. You have so much support. You have so much assistance, more than you know. So lean into it. Make sure you drink a lot of water. If you need to rest a bit, if it's bedtime for you, then give yourself the opportunity to have a restful sleep as much as possible. Just be with whatever is coming up right now. Allow yourself to move through it. If you need to listen to this multiple times, by all means do so. Utilize it in whatever ways support you the most. And just trust. Trust that you will move through it, that you will get through it. Call upon your ancestors. Even if you don't know their names, you can still call upon them. They know who you are. Call upon the beings that support you. Call upon different aspects of nature. We are nature. Nature is a reflection of us. We are a reflection of nature. We are part of it. We are not separate. So utilize everything outside of you as a resource to support you. Thanking the ancestors. Thank you, ancestors, for supporting us. I ask that you support us through whatever grief we are experiencing. And I ask that you hold space for us so that we give ourselves the grace and the permission to grieve. And may we heal as we process our grief. And as we heal ourselves, we heal you. And we create a pathway of wholeness for our future generations. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you to the directions. Thank you to the elements and elementals. Thank you to the beings in the plant, mineral, and animal kingdoms for your holding, for your support, for your reflection. Thank you to everything on earth, everything outside of earth. May we feel supported. May we know we are supported. May we support others in the ways that we can. As we all collectively move through whatever grief we are moving through. And may we move through it and come to the other side of it, being in our joy, being in our peace, being in our understanding, being who we are truly and fully. I thank you. Ashe.